Hey, welcome. Welcome to the Journeys Webcast. This is the 24th episode, if I can even believe that. I'm Allan, Karl, world writer, your host, and we're a day before our big election here in the USA. Couple points of business. Just we don't know what's really going to happen today. I don't know how many people will be tuning in. I'm hoping we have some people who are interested in popping on and sharing some experiences, and maybe we'll have a surprise guest. I don't know. It's crazy times. I had this idea last week, but I didn't really reach out to potential cameo guests until yesterday, so I don't have a big idea what's going to happen. But nonetheless, we are going to have some fun. You and me. So a couple things at the top of your screen. If something freezes, or it gets jittery, or audio starts looking funny, there's a little button that says reconnect or something. I can't see it on mine, but you'll have it there. Click that. That will regenerate the live stream for you, so it will be a little clear. Anyway, what else? So the chat box over there in the sidebar. Please introduce yourself. I can see Bonnie. Welcome. Okay, we've got Ellie from DC. Nice to see you, Chris, a neighbor here in Leucadia, and Bob, a neighbor too, just up the road. So introduce yourself. There's also a little thing where it says there's a hand. It says speak. If you do want to come on and say hi to everybody and just let us know how you're feeling. This is more of a check-in. We're not going to get political per se, but we're just going to kind of we're going to celebrate what we have here as our right as citizens of the United States to vote. And I voted a couple weeks ago, so I'm very excited about that. So anyway, you can go ahead and raise your hand over there and let us know, and I'll get alerted and see if we'll bring you on. The other thing is, if you have any questions, I kind of put it out there. If there's any questions, I said, look, a lot of times. People might be afraid to ask me or even our guests a question, but for me, at least, no holds barred. You know, we're open book here. So throw anything out there about my travels, about this webcast, about, the future, the past, the childhood, the crazy places, people and faces I've met along the way. Go ahead and ask away. We love to share that. And you can flag down there where it says chat mode. There's just above the little chat box that you can turn that chat mode into ask a question. So it flags, it gives me a little red dot here and lets me know there's a question there. So you can go ahead and do that as well. I thought, it seems to be one of my regular things for those of you. In fact, I'm going to put up a poll in the sidebar as well. We do these polls here. I'm always curious to see. Hold on, we're gonna reset that. Let's do that again. I'm always curious to see if there's anybody here, if it's their first time. But back in June, middle of June, which was I was already 2 months into doing these. My first Journeys Webcast was reaching out to an adventurer and a legendary motorcycle rider in. I put the wrong poll up, but that's okay. We'll leave that one there. Anyway, trying to manage many things. But back in April was the first Journeys Webcast. And 2 months later in June, I got hit with this crazy episode. As those of you who are regulars here on the webcast will well know, I had about a vertigo, and I still been battling it. And it's been over 4.5, almost 5 months. And for those of you not familiar with vertigo, it creates a lightheaded, dizzy feeling. Some people get the spins. I had the spins early on, but not so much. Now it's just I feel like I walk around in a fog, like I've got this ever-present hangover, but I don't have the benefit of having the alcohol. So it's kind of disenfranchising to my whole being because I ride motorcycles. And my motorcycle, I looked at it yesterday in the garage, and it's just covered in dirt. It has been on a battery tender. And unfortunately, that battery tender seems to have gone on the blink. I don't know, because the battery is dead. I tried to rejuvenate it. It looks like now I've got to get a new battery for surrogate Doc. It's not the original bike. The original bike is still over there in Athens, in Greece, waiting for my triumphant. Couldn't be that. Just maybe my modest and meek return to traveling once this vertigo goes down. So what the doctors have been doing, everybody's running around in a circle. I'm now at a second physical therapist, and I'm doing exercises every day. And so with this vertigo, this lightheaded feeling, it's kind of, you wake up and you just feel like you've got this floating, like you're on a boat, and you're not really steady, you're not really stable, and it's not very fun. And it's kind of like it's an illness, it's a disease, I guess, that has no outward meaning. If you saw me, you'd say, "Oh, you look fine, Allan. What's wrong with you?" Other than maybe if you saw me walk down the line, all of a sudden I kind of misstep or something. I don't do so much. I'm pretty good with the balance, and some of the exercises I have to do are balance related. And I challenge you with this one. Okay, this is called the Romberg maneuver, or test, I guess it really is, Romberg, and named after a guy, I guess, Romberg, legendary, got his name named after him. And what this is you have to do this. Find yourself a corner in your house somewhere where you can stand just outside the corner. So on each side of each of your shoulders is a wall. And the reason you want the wall there is in case you do lose your balance and you don't fall and crack your head or break a tooth. Anyway, and what you do is you fold your arms together like this, and then you take your feet heel to toe. So they're parallel, they're tandem like this. And you do that, and then you close your eyes and see if you can stand without falling into the wall for 60 seconds. Even with vertigo, it's very difficult. I've maybe been able to do it once, and you have to switch feet after that. And that's one of those exercises. And get back to me on that. Let me see if you can stand there, even as a non-hypofunction BPPV, whatever kinds of vertigo that I've had or have. You without vertigo, can you do it? And then if you can do it 30 seconds without a problem, without swaying or doing any of that, try it 60. Let me know. Anyway, that's a Romberg move and test, and that's a test to see how well your balance system is working, your inner ear. Other exercises, there's the thing that the doctor really wants me to do, and anybody who is affected with what would call I guess it's unilateral hypofunction. I may have that right. It's hypofunction nonetheless. Uni being on one side, I've got a hypofunction problem on one side of the ear. That the way you have to rewire the brain, so to compensate for any damage within that one side, that the brain can wire. And the brain is very, it's very resilient, and it has the ability to correct things. I came across a video online that was these neurosurgeons were trying to look at balance systems in all kinds of animals, and the ability for animals to compensate and correct. And they did a series of tests with goldfish. Now, goldfish seem to be a very simple kinds of fish, but they removed some nerve in the goldfish so that when they put them in the water, the fish lost their balance, and instead of cruising along like this, they were flopped on their side and kind of like going out of balance. And within about 60 seconds, the goldfish were able to correct themselves and then swim straight again. So the idea here with my therapy, even though it's not outward, you can't tell what I'm going through. I am going through this. And by doing these exercises, maybe like the goldfish, eventually things will correct. So they have one exercise, and if I'm boring you, go ahead and tell me to shut up. But I just figure I haven't talked too much about what I have to do. And since this is the election show, where I haven't gone into any election stuff, I thought I'd just go ahead and give you the idea. So with this, there is an exercise that if I had the ability to go out and power walk or jog while holding a magazine in front of me, not really worrying about anybody running into me or me tripping or running into anything else. I can't really do that in a in a normal environment. So they suggest going on a elliptical or a stair stepper or a treadmill, and put a magazine there. And as you're walking or jogging, is you open up to a spread and you focus on an object on that page. And from there, you hold that as you're jogging or stair stepping, whatever it happens to be. You watch that for a minute or two. And then after that interval stops, you focus on something else. And you continue to do this, starting to do it 5 minutes per session, on trying to work up to do it to 20 to 30 minutes. But the problem, the doctor says, with an elliptical or even a treadmill is you're bouncing like this and your head's going like this and you have to focus like this. So he says, you should go to somebody that has an Alter G. This is the first time I've heard of this. Now, have you ever heard of an Alter G? Okay. An Alter G is in a treadmill, but it's a treadmill that has anti-gravity. So what it does is it uses air, and you're in a harness, and it pushes air up to reduce your body weight, so that as you're treading along on that mill, so to speak, your weight, that the impact your feet, your body is having, is at a fraction, you can tune it in, of your body weight. So this is used a lot for people that have been through surgery with their legs, and or knees, because they can't put a lot of 100% of their body weight on that leg. But they still need to keep it moving. You need to, so you don't atrophy. So they've designed this system, these people up in San Jose, that you can go in there and do that therapy. So my doctor, the crazy Dr. Ian Purcell, says, go on one of these, because you'll be able to go smoother. Your head's not going to be doing that. And so I had my first episode or training, if you will, on an Alter G last week. So let's see how that goes. I go again day after the election. So anyway, I do kind of feel a little bit different. It seems like that I'm rounding the curve. Don't get me going on that. I'm rounding the curve in my little world of this vertigo. Maybe something is changing. I'm still not right, but it feels different. So feeling different is better than just feeling the same base level all the time. So folks, that's the vertigo monologue, if you will. I'm going to get better. I am going to fight this, because I've never, ever quit on anything. And I'll take any challenge, especially one that is hell out to beat me, to really beat it. So I am doing these exercises constantly. I'm shaking my head. I'm watching things. I'm fixating. I'm doing, X1, X2 moves, all these crazy things that they show you in therapy. And I'm going to get it. Okay. So that's it. Hey, looks like Michael from Montreal is tuned in. Hey, what country or place that I would never want to revisit on your motorcycle? Well, wow. That I would never want to revisit on my motorcycle. I'm gonna answer that question. It's so much easier. Which ones would I like to go back to? Which is mostly all of them. It's real difficult. If you asked me this in the middle of my journey, after I'd gone through one of my worst weeks ever of traveling through the Andes of Ecuador, having my custom molded earbuds stolen from me, and roads, and also crashing on an exit ramp leading into a town where a good friend of mine lives today, in Cuenca, Ecuador. I would have said Ecuador, because it just frosted me so much, because I just couldn't. I couldn't seem to escape that country. Bolivia was another one that I broke my leg, I sprained my ankle, and crashed my motorcycle 3 times. But I still would go to those countries again and again and again. So what place would I not go to? Let me come back to that. I swear I can't answer it, because I just love every place I've been to for one reason or another. And it's a hard thing. I've got to see more of the world before I make that determination. Maybe. So, Michael, let me think on that. You could see how I'm just struggling to answer that question. But anyway, so election day, and right now, as I sit here in my little bubble of San Diego, California, I realize that 93 million and counting people have already voted. Now, early voting has stopped in most places, I assume. I'm guessing it had to be Saturday or Sunday. So 93 million. And if it all pans out, if you listen to most anyone who has a calculator, says that we're probably going to see 150 plus million vote in this election. And that number could be the largest number ever voted in a presidential election in the United States, which is an amazing feat because too often I think people take for granted. They're a little bit cavalier about this right that they have to vote and to decide the future of the country, whether it's on the local level or like we are right now on the country level. 150 million people voted. Now, the other thing is there's so much misinformation, and we do know, and it's not fake news, trust me, that there are bad actors wedging a disinformation campaign in our country, trying to create chaos and confusion. And why do they want to do this? Well, to create disruption in this country where our democracy is questioned. And when our democracy is questioned, you find people revolting. And we can look through history at civil war, even in our own country, where two sides don't agree on something. And that division creates a chasm that we fall into, and our democracy fall into that and gets crushed by that. So these bad actors are certainly trying to do that. So I think it's just, this is not anything new I'm going to tell you, but, before you post something on Facebook, before you tweet something, think twice, or just don't post at all. There will be people who are going to say that the election's over on election night, and whether it's Biden or Trump who won, we won't know. We're not going to know because it will be, unless this is such a blowout, which I don't think it will be. But let's just call it what it is. Never in our history has an election been officially called on election night. That's because voting goes into the night, into the morning. In most cases, even in the last election, 2016, where Donald Trump surprised the world with his election, and he won Arizona, but Arizona wasn't settled, which had however many electoral college votes, but that wasn't settled until the day or 2 days after the election. So this idea that you're going to know on election night, just kind of get comfortable with that. And if you are grabbing news, don't look at your Facebook feed. Mark Zuckerberg and all his efforts and his team are trying to, make sure that the bad actors don't infiltrate, but you just don't know. Trust a trusted news source. For me, that is Axios, Axios. Go on there. A friend of mine started it 3 or 4 years ago. They are a new age of news reporting, not just political reporting. They've got a great team of journalists and really do a great job. Mike Allan is my friend. He has a morning newsletter, Grade 8 or something like this. Sign up, subscribe to it. I'll for those of you watching on YouTube, I'll put a link in it. The election will be done by the time this gets up on YouTube, but there'll be a link to it. But it's Axios.com, and this is a trusted source, and So just be where you get the news. That's my my election bit. But the other thing is, a lot of people, I think, I know, have a lot of anxiety. And some people may have some pent-up angst, anger, or even fear, hope. And some people just want to turn the volume down and get rid of the noise. Chris just posted a link there. Maybe you can tell us what that is in your next comment. I'll share that. But don't worry. Try. In fact, what I'm going to do right now, and this is not Allan the therapist, but this is just Allan the wine fan. But watch the news if you want on election night, or tune in a good Netflix. A Netflix movie or a binge watch something. Get away from the noise if it makes you anxious. Just don't let it overtake you. I'm going to actually open up a bottle of wine and share it with you right now. So for those of you at home, if you want, doesn't anybody want to come on? I mean, nobody's raised their hands. Should I start calling out people here? We had Michael was on as on one of these Be My Guest things. Anyway, well, let's talk a little bit about the wine. We'll get away from the election. We'll come back to that. But don't have a glass of wine or a glass of tea. Meditate. Don't get caught up in the hubble of this. Particularly if it makes you anxious or angry. There's people out there saying that there's going to be violence. There's voter suppression. There are voter intimidation. And this stuff may well very happen. But as long as you're not participating, try not to let it, get to you. Let's try to let what our democracy should do and can do take care of itself. And don't worry if there's going to be a wage of lawsuits from either a Republican or a Democratic candidate because they don't trust the counts or the results. Let's just wait and see. The most important thing is you voted. You voted. And the second most important thing is it's the Journeys Webcast. And what would it be if I didn't open up a bottle of wine or a glass of wine? So I want you to look at this. It's kind of a cool label. The wine is a poship, and that little squiggly on the S in this is Croatian or a Slavic language, and that S sounds like an SH. Poship. It's a 2019 from Korčula. Korčula is an island in Dalmatia, the Dalmatian coast in Croatia. And the grape is poship, as I said, which is native to that island, although it is grown elsewhere in Croatia and probably elsewhere in the world. I don't know. But it's a really kind of fruity, crispy, good acidity. I haven't had this one, so let's try it right now. It's a white wine, obviously. It's chilled down. To Croatian, my friends Matthew and Shireen, who were on a webcast, they have a site called Exotic Wine Travel. They're locked down in Croatia. And my good friend from San Diego, Ashley Colburn, who kind of has a house and spends quite a bit of time over in Croatia, and she was on an early episode of the webcast. So toast to them. Oh, look, I've got a little bit of a cork in here. Let's just take that out. Bright, good acidity, a little bit of tangerine zest, maybe some flower. There's a little floral notes coming through, but you don't want to hear me talk about wine. Do you want to hear me talk about the election? Okay. Ghibli. Chris, yes, Ghibli. That's how they say cheers in Croatia, živeli. Okay, so we rate the news for bias and reliability using a rigorous methodology and a politically balanced team of analysts. Okay, so that's the link he sent there, which is adfontesmedia.com. So they are a nonpartisan ombudsman rating the partisanship, I guess, or the bias leaning media. So there you go. Check that out. I think it's time to bring somebody on. Ellie, you're in Washington, D.C. Do you want to pop on here? How about you come on? You were out here in the summertime. We spent a little bit of time, so I'm going to invite you as a presenter for a minute. So you're probably going to get a little notice and maybe go through some things. So come on. I'm going to go back to this poll that I just put up. I didn't put up the right poll, but I did put up, where would you like to travel next once the world opens up? And, it's overwhelmingly either North America. So some of us that may be on the webcast today are want to just be able to travel with our own country. God, we got so much to see here, don't we? It's amazing. We've got an amazing country. Or they want to go to Australia or New Zealand. New Zealand, famously, perhaps one of the lowest COVID infection rates in the world. Did they have their presidential election? There's a presidential election coming up there, and that's a very interesting one to watch. Australia, interestingly, that there are still parts of Australia that, while there may be some mask requirements in certain specific regions, but some of the Australians are not allowed to pass through one province to another without quarantining. This is something we learned about Canada last week with Ayngelina, my guest, from up in Nova Scotia in the maritime provinces. So that's interesting. Nobody wants to go to China or Western Europe or South America or Central America, but we got some Africa, got some. Well, how about that? And Eastern Europe. Well, hey, thank you. Eastern Europe. There are some Croatians which probably would say that Croatia isn't part of Eastern Europe, but I'd throw them in there. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I had such a great time there in Eastern Europe. Okay, I'm going to put in the poll that I meant to put up, and that is to see how many of you on the call today are first timers. Ellie, did you get that chat? Are you shy? Let me see if I can do that again. Invite as presenter. She's being quiet. Shy. So Michael says, speaking of Ecuador, he was a victim of street mugging and attempted robbery in Quito, downtown in daylight hours. It freaked him out, but he would return to Ecuador but avoid Quito. Quito is, especially the colonial part of that city, is just beautiful. I think the whole downtown colonial area is recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I had a great time there. I was there in Christmas time, and they, obviously 90 some odd % of South Americans are Christian Catholics, and they go out and have such amazing festivals and parties and parades. And I was treated to that. Really amazing colonial cathedrals in Quito. But yeah, it's no one likes to. I got pickpocketed on a subway. They call it the subte in Buenos Aires, and it freaked me out because some of them are so so crowded. But anyway. Are we going to? Okay, so I don't know where Ellie is. So let's see. Let's bring in, be my guest. Chris, why don't you pop on since you can tell us a little bit about your, let me put the invite to you now. I don't know where Ellie is. So pop in and say hi. Tell us a little bit about what's happening in your world. You're a neighbor of mine, although right now we are socially distanced. Let's see if we can get Chris to pop on, say hello. And then maybe Bonnie. Yeah. I know there's more people on this call who are not chatting, so I don't know who's on here who's not chatting, but raise your hand. Okay, Chris F is joining the room.
I wasn't planning on coming on. What's going on?
Dr. Foster, well, that's okay. This is one of those, have you voted?
Yes, we took our ballots in today and dropped them off at the elementary school.
At the elementary school is a drop box there, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Do they verify your signature?
I'm not sure. I sent Agnes with them, so I hope that she didn't abscond with my vote and change it or something.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't sure if they were going to do that, so she's not back yet. I said if they do it, bring mine back, and I'll go back with it personally tomorrow.
Yeah, there's some pretty wacky election laws in our country, and I'm not by no means an expert, but I do understand that there are some places where people have to bring their ballot personally, and if you don't, your ballot won't be accepted, which is crazy. I don't know. If there are certainly workarounds. Maybe you had to apply for a certain kind of ballot in order to have a spouse or a family member or a friend to drop off. But there are some crazy rules out there. How are you feeling? About election. I mean, are you feeling any anxiety? Are you fear, anger? I mean, are you doing okay? What's your plan?
I think everybody, regardless of your candidates, feeling a little anxious because whichever way that it goes, we're going to have about half of the country that's not happy. Because it's such a marked difference between the two candidates. There's not it's not like something in the middle ground, et cetera. So, and then I tried. Those of you who don't know me, I live with a person who's from Europe, and she tried to have me explain the Electoral College to her. I kind of had to look it up to fine-tune my knowledge of that system. So it's like,
yeah,
we have that whole wacky thing that probably people from other countries know it better than us because they find it amusing and they study about it and they read up on it. But how that's going to impact things as well.
Well, I think that the framers of the Constitution, had the right idea when they came up with the Electoral College, which is trying to balance. So one particular populist state can't swing the election, whereas if you're in a state with a fraction of the population, say per capita, that you still have a say in that election. But I think what's happened in this is that it's that the result is gone beyond what the intenders really desired, and that is to have a balance there. Because what you see is our candidates simply focused on a handful of states. So if you're in a state where whether or not it's going to bleed red or blue, you kind of get a little bit ignored by the candidates. They just assume that, the candidates that your state's going to go for them. So what they do is spend, and look how many trips both Biden and for those of you who are not watching this, that's why I watch it, because my brother is a political journalist, and I have to have I have to be up to speed with this stuff. But I think Biden and Trump have been to Pennsylvania each like 6 or 7 times just in the last few days. Mm-hmm. Holding that rallies. I mean, Trump with his outdoor, real vigorous, red-hatted team there, and the Biden's socially distanced car honking rallies of a totally different kind. But Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona, Wisconsin, they're getting all the attention where because this is the electoral the map, the pathway, as they like to say, to 270. You have to have 270 electoral votes, and if certain ones are a given, we like to say, no problem, California's in the bag for blue. Okay, so I don't need to go to California. New York's in the bag for blue. Ohio's in the bag for red. You don't need to go to Ohio. Although what we've seen this, it's very interesting, as the demographics of our country are changing. and our country's getting more brown and more diverse, that places like Texas and Georgia and North Carolina, which all typically could have been in the bag for could be thing. And so now some of the states are getting some attention now. But I think that the Electoral College was a good idea in its time. And if one to ask me if I could vote right now and say, do we continue with the Electoral College or should we just really go the popular vote? I would go to the popular vote. What about you, Chris?
Oh, that's a huge question. I kind of think that we need to overhaul some other things too, like winner take all and coalition governments and things like that. I mean, we've had a couple hundred years of experimenting. It might be time to fine tune it a little bit more.
Yeah, and there is one state, and I won't know. Could it be Montana or one of the states that actually, if you win a particular county region, however it's isolated there, that one state has one electoral college that can go if you win that, if even if the rest of the state goes elsewhere, and so the electoral votes are separated there. It's not a winner take all. It's just one. There's just one.
I just Googled it because I read it in an article recently. It says 2 states, Nebraska and Maine, do not follow this winner-take-all method. In those states, electoral votes are proportionally allocated. Okay,
so Nebraska is the one I was thinking of. Then that one I didn't know about Maine. See, there you go. We learned something
the other day. I'm trying to get up on this, so I'll be at least as smart as all our neighbors that are smarter. Thank you, Michael. I'm sure you know a lot more about it than the average American.
Yeah, and Michael is a Canadian. Yeah, there he is. He says, yeah. I had my director of photography and producer of my TV show, Pan, who's Canadian in Vancouver, and he and I were chatting about this starting last night, and the conversation continued in the morning. And he's more concerned than some of my brethren here in the U.S. What are you going to be doing on election night? Are you going to be margarita in hand, glued to the TV with the channel switchers going between blue and red, or will you be tuning into an old classic movie like Casablanca?
James Bond. I've been doing James Bond for the last couple nights, so I think I'm going to hit some more James Bond.
Mm-hmm. It seems like things are breaking up. Bonnie said it too. So maybe if you hit that reconnect button, Bonnie, and any of the others watching us, it may be able to reconnect for you.
Just to let you know, Allan, when I was bumped off and I came back, I have a whole different view of the screen now. It doesn't have reconnect. Everything's completely different than it looked before. And I don't have the reconnect.
Well, you're a presenter now, so you won't have the reconnect button.
Okay. Well, let me get off. Let's give someone else a chance. So I don't.
Yeah, I'm going to try to bring on Bonnie here because I've known Bonnie for many years. I'm going to take you off, and Bonnie, I'm going to send you a link, and come on and say hi. And maybe if Doug is with you, invite as presenter. You'll go through a series of, however it asks you to check your microphone and that. But that's interesting. So, what about you? Are you going to be glued to the election, or are you going to just try to sleep and wake up and be surprised? How much of a political junkie, or let's face it, in this time with 150 million potential voters, you don't have to be a potential political junkie to tune in. Okay, Bonnie. So there are a couple icons in the upper left. One is the microphone, which should be a blue. It's on. I can kind of hear you tapping. But turn the one next to it on. It's supposed to be a camera, but it's a very poorly designed icon. We should have you design them a better camera icon, man. So, welcome. How are you? Where are you? Tell people where you're tuning in from.
I'm in San Clemente. Southern California, just up the coast from Allan.
Yep. And Bonnie is a art director, graphic artist, and all around amazingly creative person beyond the computer art. She does. She can freehand draw. And for those of you tuned in here who know about my book Forks, okay, so Bonnie produced and put that whole thing together, made sure it printed like it did. She pretty much designed or put together every little map. There's a map on every country there, and I know it gave her a headache doing that. So Bonnie is very well part of my life and that book and has followed my crazy escapades around the world for a long time. Hey, Bonnie, how are you feeling about the election?
I just, I've voted, I've cast my vote, and I'm just waiting to see. I'm sure, whatever it ends up being is what it's going to be. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of angry people out there. But
are you worried about that? How it looks to, our country will look to the rest of the world if either side, the blues or the reds, are sore losers, I guess, in the sense that either they're violent and go looting and, brandishing weapons or lining up at courthouses with stacks of papers with lawsuits. I mean, either scenario looks bad, doesn't it?
It's embarrassing. Yeah, it really is.
Mm-hmm. And did you vote early or are you voting on election day?
Oh, no, I already voted.
Okay, yeah, you said that. That's right. And what about your husband, Doug, as well? Both of you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So are you going to be glued to the TV with a glass of wine on election day? Or are you going to be watching, Enola Holmes or some movie?
All of that. It's really good. I'm sure I'll be checking in now and then, but it's like all the results won't be in on Tuesday anyway. So, you aren't going to get all the answers right away.
Yeah. They'll be. Okay. I was hoping today that my brother Jonathan, as you know, is the ABC News chief White House correspondent for ABC News, and he still may possibly come in. But what I thought I would do, I've got I put together a greatest hits of this and of Jonathan and his work in the White House press room. So let's watch it. You want to watch a little video with me, Bonnie? Yeah. Okay, let's watch this. This is going to be fun. Let's see. Here we go. So this is my brother Jonathan and his interactions. He's covered, by the way, Donald Trump for 24 or some odd years since he was a cover reporter working at the New York Post back in the 80s in New York City. Here we go. We'll talk about this on the other side, Bonnie.
Okay.
Why did you lie to the American people, and why should we trust what you have to say now?
Such a terrible question, and the phraseology. I didn't lie. What I said is we have to be calm, we can't be panicked. And your question, the way you phrase that is such a disgrace. It's a disgrace to ABC television network. It's a disgrace to your employer. And that's the answer. You ready? Because I love. Of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. No.
Deadlier than the flu, and then you went out and told the American public that this was just like the flu.
Let me tell you something. We've had flu years.
You told everybody else something else.
No, and 5 times, right? 5 times. Do you ever hear the expression 5 times? We've had flu years where we lost 100,000 people. The flu is a very serious problem for this country also. So, but just so you know,
this is worse than the most deadlier than the most strenuous flu.
Okay.
And then you went out and said it's just like the flu.
John. Be fair, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how nice you used to be before I ran? Such a nice man.
Always fair.
How long has that person been in government?
Did serve in the previous administration.
Oh, you didn't tell me that. Oh, I see. You didn't tell me that, John. You didn't tell me that. Did serve in the previous administration. You mean the Obama administration. Thank you for telling me that. See, there's a typical Fake news deal.
You asked me when she was appointed. I told you when she was appointed.
You're a
by your
third-rate
administration.
reporter. I think his name was Jonathan Karl, right? Who's a very nice guy.
You don't still question that he was born in the United States, do you?
I have no idea.
Even at this point?
Well, I don't know. Was it a birth certificate? You tell me. You know, some people say that was not his birth certificate. I'm saying I don't know. Nobody knows. And you don't know either, Jonathan. You're a smart guy. You don't know either.
I'm pretty convinced he was born.
Pretty.
In the United States.
Pretty.
Are you able to guarantee, to assure these states, these hospitals, that everybody who needs a ventilator will get a ventilator?
I think we're in great shape. I hope that's the case. I hope that we're going to have leftovers so we can help other people, other countries.
Who needs one will be able to get a ventilator?
Look, don't be a cutie pie, okay? You know, everyone who needs one. Nobody's ever done what we've done. Well, you just said you're pretty sure, and if you're pretty sure, that's not acceptable because, you know, you can't be pretty sure. You have to be 100%.
I'm sure. I'm 100% sure.
I don't think you are.
Hey, John. No, seriously, John, do you think I should just sign?
Well, the argument has been made that you
me.
can sign these bills that have nothing to do with
John,
border
do you
security.
think I should just sign?
I'm saying that if you sign that, these workers can start getting paid. The government can
So
start
you would
working.
do that if you were in my position. You'd do that.
I'm not in your position. I'm asking you if that's something you would do.
I'm asking you, would you do that if you were in my position?
Because
if you would do that, you should never be in this position. Because you'd never get anything done.
You're not thinking about running for president, are you?
Well, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to give it very serious consideration.
Are you really?
That I can tell you. Very, very serious.
Because a lot of people say that you do
I know
that,
they
and
say
it's never
We're going to see what
serious.
happens. We may surprise you. Yeah. You would be surprised, right?
I would be shocked,
Okay.
yes.
The book was very good, by the way. Thank you. It was better than I thought it would be. No, it was actually a very good book, but it was actually better about me than I thought it would be. So I appreciate it. You've known me for a long time.
26 years.
So there's Jonathan, kind of a greatest hits video of some of his interactions. You know, you can see some of them go back to 2013, 2014, when he was flirting about going into this presidential race. So fascinating, huh?
Yes.
The
book is a
so-
good book. If anyone hasn't read it, it's a really good read.
Awesome. So yes, you've read the book. Okay. See, yes, it is very, very, very good book. I will agree. Hey, so Bonnie, you and I have known each other for probably as long as Jonathan has been covering Trump. And we, you know, in this crazy Corona time, you know, we don't get to see each other as much as we do. You and your husband, we're, are you drinking wine? It's too early for you. Is that right? Are you working?
I am working. Yes.
Okay. Well,
I'm supposed to be working.
Yeah. Well, I kind of, I had to get you on here. So, by the way, the grapes, the red seedless grapes this season, have you had any of these yet?
No.
Oh my God. They are just, I don't know, every year I buy them, but something about this year, 2020 has delivered us so much crap, but the red organic seedless table grapes have delivered us the best I've had, I think, ever. So there's always a silver lining there, right? Yeah. So during COVID, I'm kind of curious, Bonnie. We all have aren't doing a lot of the traveling. You are famous for traveling the world underwater. I'm famous to a degree for traveling it overland on a motorcycle. You've swam with whale sharks. You've been in cages with the great whites. You've swam with the lovely coral reefs in so many places of the world. But obviously now, you probably have not been on a dive for the longest single stretch of time in many years. What have you discovered about yourself, or what new things have you been doing during COVID that, because you can't do some of the things you wanted to? Have you found yourself doing something or getting something done you never could because you're always on the move?
Baking a lot.
Baking.
Yeah. And watching a lot of webinars.
And watching a lot of webinars. Great. Anything particularly inspiring that you could share?
Well, post-production, underwater post-production is kind of like a big deal. And there's this lady, Erin Quigley, Go Ask Erin, and she has these great free webinars. And she's like the queen of post-production. And so I've been watching a lot of her stuff.
Awesome. Because you've helped produce a number of books that celebrate some of the great divers of the world, and who have really broken a lot of ground that a lot of people who maybe don't know the beauty of the underworld, of the undersea, you're kind of giving them their place on the world stage.
Yes,
Tell us a little.
What?
Yeah, I think since I have you on here and I know you so many great things you've done, and you've been really active in the Women's Divers Hall of Fame,
Yes.
and we could even have a whole webcast sometime. Maybe bring in your friend who broke ground for women, right? For women. Tell us just a little bit about your experience with that and where people could go to learn more about some of the amazing feats that these women have done.
Are you talking about Dottie Frazier?
Yeah, Dottie. Yeah, for sure, Dottie.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Dottie Frazier. This lady, right now she is 98 years old, and she lives in Long Beach, and she was like the first female scuba instructor in the world, and she's done all kinds of amazing. She broke ground where there were no women instructors at the time, and she was like number one. And
number one.
Yeah, she rode Harleys, and she still lives.
She's a Harley rider. Oh, yeah, nice.
She still lives in her own house in Long Beach.
98 years old, and I've seen some of those pictures. I mean, that some of those, you look at technology, how it's improved and made scuba diving so much, more accessible. But back then, when she was the first woman to ever become an instructor, I mean, it was almost like an iron lung they had to wear to go diving, isn't it?
Well, the problem was, one of the things for women was that there was no equipment and no wetsuits and that made specifically for women. And so women kind of had to just kind of alter the men's gear and make it work. But like even her whole family was into the water and the ocean. And when she was 7 years old, she saved her sister, who was 5 at the time. She fell off their boat over at Catalina, and everybody else was below deck doing something, and she jumped in and saved her sister.
Wow.
So she's always kind of been this like daring do kind of person.
And she was 7, you said, at that time?
Yes.
7 years old to save your 5-year-old sister. That's amazing. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, where's Doug? Is he around? Is he just he's shy?
Oh, he's out. He's off doing chores somewhere. Always.
Oh, okay. So he's doing honeydews?
Yeah. No, they're his.
They're his dues.
His dues, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so last question then, because you're a baker, and you also not only a baker, but in Doug as well, as you guys are just incredible chefs, and it should go to note that you two are the one who inspired me to create Forks with the recipes. If it weren't for you two, Forks would have been another travelogue memoir kind of thing. And now look at it. We're in our 4th printing.
The recipes in that book are fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. I got an email today. In fact, this is what's inspiring about about the book, and the way that I did it is you get something like this. Let me pull this up if I can find it. So there's a woman named Trudy. I don't know her from anything. She sent a message through my website. I'm going to read 2 things. That back in October, early October, and said, "Hi, Allan. Just wanted to drop you a little thanks for doing this book. The amazing journey you have been on. I will never visit those places you have been, but felt as I was there when reading this book. I have recently started my life over again and have moved to the Sierras in Amador County and have found here some awesome people. I have reconnected to some from my childhood and found how small this world really is. Thank you again, Trudy." And I wrote her back and said that was really nice. You know, I'm always responsive to that. And then she sent a note. And now that was like a month ago. So today I got a note from her again. And it says, "Hi, Allan. I am sharing your book with all of my new friends here in Amador County. We are also going to try your recipes and start a cooking group this winter when we are stuck inside with the snow. If it does, I heard we're going to have a dry winter." I also bought a Riker Can-Am. That's one of those 3-wheel. Have you ever seen those? Like they're kind of like not really motorcycles, but they're 3 wheels. She says, "I also bought a Riker Can-Am this year and have been putting around the mountains and having a blast." And she says, "If you're ever in the area and you want to know and see it, I would love to guide you. A lot of gold still left in these hills, I've been told. Take care. Enjoy the day." You know, you get, I mean, it's warm. And there, you know, it's like once every couple of months, I get somebody who does just reach out. And for those of you who are watching this live or on the YouTube, to any author or any even actor, anybody inspiring, you know, it's amazing how more accessible and open most people in the creative business are. And we appreciate when somebody sends that. And when you go out of your way to do that, I will go out of my way as soon as it may not be immediately, it depends. Sometimes these things fall through the cracks, but I always respond. And I'm sure you do too.
Yes.
All right. Well, any last words of wisdom about the election before we close up this webcast?
Open a good bottle of wine, have something good to eat, and just chill out.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's no matter what?
Okay. So what's for dinner tonight, and what's your election menu look like?
What's for dinner tonight? I know I'm making some stuffed mushrooms for appetizers, but I'm not sure what Doug's cooking for dinner yet.
And do you have any ideas what the election night meal will be?
Maybe tri-tip.
Ooh, I have one in my freezer. I could thaw. We could do virtual tri-tip tasting together on election.
When you were talking about that lady and her friends doing like a cooking kind of party, I think I like that idea where share a recipe with, a certain number of people and everybody cook the same thing, and then have like a Zoom happy hour where you all eat the same thing and talk and compare notes. Yeah.
That's it. That is maybe I should just do like a forks thing and see how many people we could inspire to do one of the rest, and then that might inspire people to do their own with their own groups. Huh.
Right.
Hey, ideas are brewing here on the Journeys Webcast.
Well, I love it. Drink there, and I'm thinking, I need something.
Yeah, I hate this new time change.
Yeah.
It's getting dark so soon.
Yeah.
But I guess that means you could technically the webcast was 4 o'clock. Yeah. I did all my vestibular vertigo exercises today. So, and some of them were calorie burning. So I feel okay. Hey, Bonnie, I want to thank you for being on the whim and joining us. This has been fun, and yes. We'll all look forward to the election tomorrow, and but more like good food and good wine, and eventually
we'll see you on the other side.
Okay, yes, we'll see you on the other side. Thanks, yes. Bonnie.
Okay, thanks, Allan.
I love you. Wow. So there you have it. Michael says, "Hey, we got to get John on the webcast after the election." Absolutely, we will do that. I was hoping he'd pop on today, but no such luck. Everybody, I hope you voted. Don't let the mis and disinformation and the anxiety, fear, or anger take over you, please relax, enjoy. Let's watch our democracy. Let's hope, and I have full faith in that it will work. One way or another, we are going to see there's going to be change. There's going to be change. Even if Donald Trump wins the election again, there's going to be change. He'll make sure of it. And if there is a Biden win, there's going to be change. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will also see to that. I'm going to close with one thing. I've got a political correspondent as a brother. I've always been interested in politics. I haven't always been. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm getting a call from Jonathan. Hold on. Jonathan? Okay, so, hey, just as we're closing down the cast, Jonathan Karl, ABC News, he is coming into the room. This is fantastic. Oh, wow. There he is.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
There wow. So you were just on the air, I'm imagining, huh?
Yes, I was. We had the lead piece on World News Tonight about. Tomorrow they tell me it's the election.
Yeah, this is now. You missed it. You probably weren't on, but I played your greatest hits video.
Nice.
Yeah, you might want to come a little closer to the mic because you're a little muted.
Do you want me to be like you? And do one of these things?
Well, I do this so that I don't have to, when I play the videos, they don't come through my speaker and give everybody an echo. I was just, I didn't see in the chat room. I was just kind of had Bonnie on I was doing my closing. I was telling this is like one of the first presidential elections.
I heard that. I heard it all.
You heard it all. So what advice do you have for people that may be either anxious or have fear or are just, letting this election maybe overrun their lives just maybe a bit too far? What would you say to them?
Well, I think that it's easy to understand those feelings. I mean, when you see one of the things that we mentioned in my story tonight is the construction of a so-called non-scalable fence around the White House the day before the election. And when you see the streets of Washington, D.C. and New York, where I am right now, you see storefronts being boarded up, plywood, in anticipation of unrest to come with the election. You can understand the unease when you hear the president suggest that he might not accept the election results. That he believes that any votes that are counted after tomorrow night are not legitimate. I mean, you can understand the unease. So I understand where it's coming from. I have confidence that we're going to have really an historic election. I mean, I've talked to election election experts who believe that the turnout could exceed 160 million Americans. Which would be a record. It would be a record both in terms of the absolute numbers, but it would also be a record in terms of the percentage of eligible voters. The record was set in 1960. It came very close to being broken in 2008. And this election, if we hit that anywhere near, I think it's 157 million. If we get to that point, we will break a record in terms of the turnout, which is really impressive, and it's a great thing, and it's something that all of us should be proud of, as Americans, kind of regardless of who we're voting for. And I've spent, Allan, the last several days talking to local election officials in some of the key states, secretaries of state. These are public servants. In most states, it's an elected position. I spoke to today to the Secretary of State of Ohio, who is a Republican. He's also an Army veteran and a former member of the state Senate in Ohio. And I asked him how things are going over there, and he gave me the numbers. They think they're going to break records for turnout in Ohio. And I said, well, what about this notion that? Well, first of all, I'm saying, are you seeing any signs of funny business, fraud? Election ballots being discarded or stolen, or people trying to vote multiple times, or any of the things that have been like invoked over the past several weeks about the risks of mail-in voting? And he said, no, we're seeing none of it. And if we see in individual cases, they'll be prosecuted. But he had complete and total confidence that it was going to be a free and fair election in Ohio. And then I asked him, well, what about, are you going to have total and final results on, by the end of the night on election day? And he said, we never, ever do. We count the votes until we're done counting. And every vote counts. And networks like mine may project winners, if there's a clear enough, majority, where that even as the final votes come in, it's gonna stay. Networks can project winners, but they don't certify winners until the last vote is in. And in the state of Ohio, every state's got their own rules. But in the state of Ohio, as long as your ballot is postmarked by today, the day before the election, it gets counted. Doesn't matter, you got several days to come in. And, some of those ballots might be coming from overseas, frankly, from people serving in the U.S. military overseas. You're going to not count their votes? Somebody sending something in from Iraq or from Afghanistan, you're not going to count their votes? You kidding me? So I have tremendous confidence that local officials like that, and again, that was a Republican, and I had a similar conversation with another Republican Secretary of State in Georgia, which is going to be a very interesting state, very hotly contested state, said all the same stuff. So yes, are we going to see some unrest? Maybe some places. Fine, maybe. But I think that we're going to have a great election, and I think that people have every reason to be totally confident in the results of this election. And I agree with your comments that we will survive as a nation and as a people, regardless of what happens. And I also agree with your comments, by the way, Allan, that I think our country will be changed as a result of this, and as we're, I guess, in a way, changed by any election.
True. And before you came on, I talked a little bit about that record-breaking 150 to 160 million votes, which is crazy. I also talked about how Arizona in 2016 didn't certify their votes until, I think, Thursday. So coming back to the notion that you reinforced, and I'm no political presidential electoral college expert by all means. I'm a bit of a news junkie and political junkie in that sense, but I know where my limits are. But when anybody says that if the election is not called on that night, that all those votes that's crazy. Yeah, like you said, it's crazy.
No, it's and by the way, nobody's going to go along with that. Even if one very powerful person with a very loud bully pulpit says that tomorrow night, the leaders in his own party won't go along with that. We have there's a fundamental principle of American democracy: every vote counts, and every vote will be counted.
The Supreme Court decision recently, was it in Minnesota, that unlike Pennsylvania and Ohio, we're not going to accept, or was it Wisconsin? I can't recall, but there was which is unlike the other states that you just mentioned, particularly Ohio. If it's postmarked, even if it comes in a week
Yeah,
later.
this was a case that where I believe it was Wisconsin, where Wisconsin does not accept votes after Election Day, and a lot of states don't. They have different rules, and if you know the rules ahead of time, you mail your vote in with plenty of time to make sure it gets there. And there was a lawsuit in federal court to challenge that law, to say that they should grant another, I think it was another 6 days they were asking. And the Supreme Court rejected it, saying that it is up to the state, each state, to define their own rules. And the Supreme Court wasn't going to be second guessing the state of Wisconsin's laws. And if they wanted to change in that, then you need to change the law. I mean, that's, I don't think that's a devastating blow. I think that there were arguments. I mean, there was an argument that the plaintiffs were making that, given the coronavirus and the fact that the mail system is slower, that they should allow extra time. And the Supreme Court was simply saying, maybe, but that's not our role. We're not here to tell the state of Wisconsin how to run their elections.
And hopefully that is the way it should be up to an election election law, if you will, is something that is a proprietary to that state and is not something a federal court should be interfering with. And let those states.
I mean, there are civil rights laws too. So if a state were to say, we're not going to allow people that own Pontiac GTOs to vote, the Supreme Court could knock that down because it violates a different principle. But this is on the kind of technicalities of it. It's not disenfranchising any particular group. I have to say though, this issue of when ballots come in, mail-in ballots come in, is I don't think is the major one at all. I think that most people, especially with all the attention to mail-in voting, have made an effort to get the ballots in early. So many people in states have taken advantage of drop boxes and brought them in personally. So I don't think we're talking about huge numbers here. The big issue is the state of Pennsylvania, where due to, again, the way that they've elected to do things in that state, all these mail-in votes, the ballots, the envelopes can't even be looked at until Election Day, which means, now you understand, when somebody sends in a mail-in vote, election officials have to look at it. They have to check the name to make sure that person is on the voter rolls. They have to check to make sure that the person hasn't voted twice. They have to mark it in the system. Some states, like Pennsylvania, have a rule that the election envelope needs to be inside another envelope. So they have to check to make sure that was done properly. They have to check, in some states, the signatures with the signatures on voter files. Some states, like Virginia, where I voted, require you to have a witness signature. So all this takes time. You can imagine, with millions of votes, to do that, it takes a long time. So in several states, they do it as the votes come in, and they're not opening them up and counting them yet, but they're preparing them all. Okay, these are legit votes, and as soon as it's time to tabulate, we can put them in the system and tabulate. But this goofy system in Pennsylvania, they're not even allowed to look at the ballots and begin processing them until Election Day. That's why it's going to take several days. It's not that they're waiting for the postman to deliver them. It's that it's going to take time to process it. So so be patient. If it comes down to Pennsylvania, and it might not. I mean, Pennsylvania might be irrelevant, but if we're all waiting on Pennsylvania as the one state that's going to determine the election, okay, sit down and wait, because local officials are already telling us it's going to be at least till Friday until they're done processing all those votes.
Have a glass of wine and relax. Hey, what about a lot of states that are accepting and counting ballots that come in, even though they're postmarked by Election Day, but they are being received after that? They are, it's not the proper word, I'll call it sequestering, but segregating those ballots in anticipation of court battles. What is your feeling on on that? Is that just prudence, or is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which states you're referring to, but you know, I mean, there may well be challenges to that and all that. But you know, frankly, I got to be honest, Allan. I don't think this is going to be. You know, sometimes we get all hyped up over something, and then that's not the way it works out. So, for instance, do you remember where you were on December 31st, 1999? You know, we were worried that maybe planes were going to start falling out of the sky because of Y2K. You know?
Yeah, I do remember exactly where I was, but nothing happened.
Okay. And in the political world, every 4 years, somebody gets wound up that there's going to be a brokered convention, that nobody's going to have a majority, and they're going to be like back in the smoke-filled rooms. Like, and you know, it hasn't. I mean, I hope it happens sometime. It'd be a lot of fun to cover, but it hasn't happened. And I don't think that we're going to have big armies of lawyers and the courts determining this. I think we might have a pretty clear result. I mean, we'll see. I mean, we're ready if that happens. We have laws, we have courts, we have a system for adjudicating this stuff, and it'll be fine. But let's not assume that's where it's going to go. I mean, I mean, it's going to go.
And a big point of my whole webcast and my opening statement, if you will, today was to don't get anxious, don't get worked up. I mean, there is, you know, we do have proof that there are bad actors looking to disrupt using disinformation. So don't tweet, don't share anything on Facebook. Just sit back. And I gave a shout out to an organization that you're very well aware of, and a friend of yours, and who's become a friend of mine, Mike Allan. I said, look, Axios is a pretty darn good, credible source for news.
Straight down the middle. ABC News is pretty good too, by the way. I don't know if you know those guys.
Well, you know, I'm my network. Then I'm going to be, and I told people, look, if you get anxious, turn off the news for the night. But for me, I like it, and I want to see you on there. So I'm going to be tuned into ABC News all night.
I'll be on from 7:00 in the evening, at least until 2 a.m. That's when the network is committed to you know, what is that, 7 hours worth of worth of broadcasting results, you know, election returns and all of that. And then we will probably stay on longer than that. The way that determination will be made is if it looks like there will be a result tomorrow night, a projected result. Again, not, you know, the final thing, but if it looks like we're going to be able to project, then we'll stay on until that projection. Otherwise, we will go and sleep for a couple hours and come back on at, you know, early in the morning. But and those are all Eastern times, by the way. I know you guys tend to be out in California. You have all different. I don't know how that all works, but you guys have different time out there, right?
Well, we do. In fact, but it's really, you know, what's really screwed with us out here, and I don't know if it's screwed with you out there. Just this last weekend, all of a sudden, it's getting darker a lot earlier.
What?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. It's like I think
I'd be worried about that. Don't worry about the election. I'd be worried about that.
I mean, somebody's playing with the sunset. I don't, you know, what's going on here?
That's pretty crazy.
This is crazy.
Maybe it's those QAnon guys. Maybe those QAnon guys.
Oh, those QAnon guys are doing it. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know what we're gonna do. Hey, coming back to the politics of this and the your ability to whether or not you're going to get any sleep or whether you're just going to go, you know, dovetail from election coverage into good GMA, you know, without any break.
Could happen.
That Florida obviously has already started counting their votes, right? The mail-in, and
now to be clear, it's what they do is they're starting the processing of the votes. So it goes in the system, they check it all, and then they begin, you know, when polls close. So they don't actually have a count yet. They have a count of how many votes have been have been turned in. They even know how many Republicans and Democrats and Independents have turned them in. They've checked it all. They've done all this stuff. So Florida is a state where if you're looking to kind of see how results will be coming in, Florida, like shortly, probably within a half an hour of polls closing, you're going to see a lot of vote already tabulated because it's all prepared and ready to go. Georgia is very similar. Texas is another one. You'll see a lot early. Ohio. And then you'll have the states that'll be really slow, painfully slow, like Pennsylvania. Michigan.
Where does North Carolina fit into that?
Early.
Okay.
And now, so I'll give you an example. North Carolina actually gives, I believe it's a full 2 weeks for the ballots to come in if they're postmarked ahead of time. But they count really quickly, and you'll know how many are outstanding because they know how many ballots were requested and not returned.
Right.
So that's why you might be able to project a winner in North Carolina even before all the rest of those mail-in comes in because you've seen the results. So if you have 100,000 ballots outstanding and one of the two candidates has a 200,000 vote lead, doesn't matter. But if it's really close, then you're going to have to wait it out. But again, I don't think that North Carolina's had massive in-person voting early, and they've had a hell of a lot of the mail-in already returned. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of drama about the ones that come in after Election Day.
Now, I know you cover almost exclusively presidential politics, and in this election, that's where you're tuned into, and certainly you have an eye towards congressional races as well. But even beyond that, are there any races that are interesting to you, gubernatorial, or even in some places where we have these propositions, things that happen in various places all over the country? California's, famously, we've got Proposition 22, for example, which is trying to the ride sharing, the sharing community of to turn those independent contractors into employees if they're working 30 plus hours. That's a big contention. A lot of money being poured into that here in California. Anything out there that's kind of capturing your idea for just personal interest or something that may have a
Sure. I mean, there's always a few interesting referenda going on. You've got several marijuana referenda this time around. I haven't had a chance to really get too up to speed. I've got my list of them, and I'll be tracking them. There aren't a lot of governor's races this year that have a lot of drama to them, but there are a lot of really interesting Senate races. So,
which one do you find that is going to be one or two that you think could really?
There are three that have incumbent Republican senators that could go either way, which is always, as somebody that loves following politics, that makes for a very interesting election night.
Of course.
It's conceivable that in these three races, which I'll tell you, that all three Republicans could win, and it's equally conceivable that all three could lose. And I wouldn't be surprised with either result. There's only there's a 3-seat majority. It depends on how it depends on whether or not Biden or Pence will be the tie-breaking vote. But anyway, that is Joni Ernst in Iowa, Susan Collins, who's mounted quite a comeback and could actually win in Maine, and Tom Tillis, who was left as considered a dead man walking in North Carolina, but has come back largely because of some screw-ups, personal screw-ups by the Democrat Cunningham in North Carolina.
Yeah,
So you have those three. Obviously, the Lindsey Graham race will be really interesting to watch. I'd be really surprised if Lindsey Graham loses, but Jamie Harrison is a very impressive Democratic challenger who has raised like presidential level numbers in a race there. There's a race. There's the Senate race in Kansas. Could be one that surprises. You've got. There's a race. The Alaska race. Montana. Mike Espy in Mississippi is even kind of an interesting race. There are two races, because one's a special in Georgia. They're probably both will go to a runoff because they have multiple candidates, and if you don't get to 50%, they have a runoff that'll be on January 5th. So you could be waiting for the control of the Congress till January. So there's a lot of really interesting things happening in the Senate. Then you have, obviously Martha McSally in Arizona, who is considered at this point an underdog, and Cory Gardner, who's really considered an underdog now in Colorado. But that's a lot of Senate races, and you could wake up with like the Republicans hung on, or they're down 7 seats. I mean, there's a whole range of possibilities that are plausible. And then you got Doug Jones, of course, in Alabama, who's the Democrat.
He's an underdog.
He's a super underdog. But it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go and get ready for this, man. We got a big day tomorrow. But figure out what's happening.
Yeah. I know you also were a wine fan and connoisseur in the sense of the word.
In the old days, yeah.
Yeah. So for people that are tuned into the webcast, and you had a wine recommendation. It doesn't have to be a particular bottle, but maybe a varietal or something. I don't think anybody really needs to be thinking about a bubbly quite yet for tomorrow. But what's your election night wine choice for the viewers of the webcast?
If you can get a hold of one, I would open up one of those old heritage wines from Bedrock, the Bedrock Wine Company. Those are quintessentially American wines. Morgan Peterson, who is one of the absolute best winemakers in California, goes out and he's basically sought out these vineyards of vines that were planted, some of them around the turn of the century, some of them maybe even a little before. He calls them field blends because you have different old varietals in the same field. And it's a good American, good American heritage wine. So I'd go out and get a Bedrock heritage wine. He's got a lot of them.
Yeah, they're heritage vineyards that are, and everything is co-fermented, so there's no isolation, and it's all natural yeast. And that's a good. Hey, yeah. Like that. I'm having a
recommendation.
We always do at the webcast, and I share with you this is a poship. It's
great.
From Korčula, Croatia.
I've got a lot of work to do, so
You're doing Well, I will look to see what you're doing post-election for your bottle, but I think you stick to the Evian and maybe a little tea to keep you calm and soothed.
Okay. All right. Well, hang in there.
Hey,
thanks for having me. Thanks
for tuning in
on the webcast. I've heard a lot about it, and it's an honor to be on it.
Now it's an honor for us, and people we didn't know whether we'd see you, and I can see several people have stayed on. We've kept this thing going. So a lot
sorry
of
to go late here. Yeah. All right.
No, it's all good. Hey, I love you, man. Good luck tomorrow. We'll be watching. Okay.
All right, rock and roll.
Yep. All right. That's Jonathan Karl, ABC News chief White House correspondent, my brother, and he'll be covering the election tomorrow on ABC News. They also have a digital stream. If you're not into the, you don't have an antenna, because it's actually one of those networks that you don't need cable. But if you are a cord cutter and you simply have that, there's a digital ABC News digital. Check that out. They have got great coverage, a great team, and tune into them or whoever you choose. I'm biased. In that sense, I'm biased to my brother, and I think that's okay. All right. So Gosh, that was so good. Right as I was closing down, we got him in there. I'm sorry if some people dropped off, but hey, you know what? Great information, wealth of knowledge, very smart guy. And, he thinks that how this is going to go is, the drama will be minimal. So anyway, once again, I'll do it again. I'm Allan Karl, your host, World Writer. This is the Journeys Webcast, episode 24, the election show. Thank you to Bonnie Toth for tuning in, and thank you for Chris Foster, and especially thank you to my brother Jonathan, who just came right off the set. And you can tune in if you're on the West Coast to ABC News, your local listings, and see his lead story tonight. We'll get him on again next time. Anyway, see you next week. I'm not sure who our guest is yet, but I'll send you an email and let you know. Have fun. Thank you for tuning in to the Journeys Webcast. I'm Allan Karl, your host. Be sure to tune us in every Monday. The time changes depending on where we are in the world. This is Allan Karl, and where will your next journey take you? Thank you. I love doing this, and I'm glad you stay with me. See you next week.